What is up, everyone, and welcome to F1 2021, the new F1 game from Codemasters, and we're doing a driver career, which is something I haven't done before. If you remember back, I did a championship mode playthrough on last year's game, just showing through the some of the settings that I'm on.
First, let's create your driver.
Got my driver, and then we're signing with High-Tech GP for an F2 season. First of all, I thought I'd go the whole 9 yards. We'll do an F2 campaign, full 12 races first.
Great, that's everything we need. You can go back and edit anything we've done so far, and we'll come back here at the start of each season. But if you're ready to go, hit advance to head to the team HQ, and we can start our push to the top of Formula 1.
Yeah, hopefully make it into F1, but I have made it a little bit harder for myself than you would usually expect. I set the setting to medium. I can't remember the name of the setting now, but it's basically the one that's about F1 teams taking notice of you based on performance in the championship. So I do have to do well in F2 in order to get into F1. It's not going to be a free ride. But yeah, first things first, you got practice in Bahrain.
This first race of the season is always quite difficult for us trackside, and for those back at the factory as well, as it's the first time the car has run since winter testing. The more consistent mileage you can get in these sessions, the happier we'll be.
So I won't show much of practice because it's not really important, but I thought one fun thing that did happen during practice, which I was pretty happy about, as you can hear in the background, someone is getting a bit racy outside. There was a little bit of a scrap between me and Callum Ilott in FP1. Well, there's only one practice session in F2, but yeah, I was being held up by him a little bit as I was trying to do the race strategy simulation, just trying to calculate the best strategy for my race on the Saturday and Sunday, as it happened in F2 last year. And we actually go a little bit wheel to wheel here. Eventually he has the inside line. He manages to hold his position. He was not prepared to yield for me or for anyone, and it didn't mess with anything, but I just thought it was a nice little battle between me and Ilott, both signing for the Ferrari Driver Academy.
Quick look at the classification at the end of the session, then here are your top three: Robinson, Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda. Practice times are on the board then, but no points are on offer just yet. We'll be back with more F2 action soon.
Yeah, just completely walked practice, really, over a second faster than anyone else. I was feeling pretty good going into qualifying, and yeah, this is my first qualifying run. I did 2 qualifying runs in total, but I thought I'd show the first one because that ended up being the faster of the 2 runs. One thing I didn't realize until after I'd done both runs is that you only get 1 set of qualifying tires. But unlike in F1, in F2, because there's only 1 qualifying session, you don't have to start the race on your qualifying tires if you start in the top 10. So yeah, in the race I will start on a fresh set of tires. So my qualifying tires being a bit dead is not the end of the world. But yeah, I did end up doing 2 runs on them, which meant that by the time I was done with my second run, my tires were already gone by about 30% or so. I thought this was a pretty good run. Obviously, I think I did a total of 7 laps during the practice session, which means I was slowly coming to terms with the Bahrain circuit in an F2 car. You can see I went a bit deep at turn 10, I believe that is, maybe turn 11. I can't remember the exact turn numbers. But yeah, I think all in all, it was a pretty strong lap, and I was feeling pretty good about my overall pace around the Sakir circuit. Sakir is typically a circuit I do pretty well at. So yeah, I signed for High-Tech GP. The aim was that I'd be replacing Mazepin, but they didn't give me the choice, so I instead I'm partnering Mazepin. But yeah, hopefully I can just make him look like a wally by outperforming him at every single race. Come up to the line, and it's a 140.1. I would have liked to have dipped into the 139s, but it's not a big deal. You can see me come to the end of my second run now. I won't show the whole thing because it was 7/10 slower than my my first lap. But yeah, crucially, it was good enough for pole position.
Complete, and we're all set for an exciting race tomorrow. Your top 3 are Robinson, Tsunoda, and Mick Schumacher. It's time to leave for now, but we'll be back tomorrow when the feature race gets itself underway.
The thing that got to me though was that whilst it was pole position by well over a second, like 1.5 second gap to Yuki Tsunoda. And this is AI that gives me a proper battle in the F1 games. AI difficulty. I think I'm on 90 at the moment. So not an easy ride.
Welcome to Sakir and the Bahrain International Circuit, where the grid is forming up ready for today's race. Bahrain represents an exceptional 3.36 miles of racing. Lots of opportunities to overtake throughout its 15 corners. Now, this track has a reputation for being brutal on the rear tyres, so keep an eye on how these young drivers manage their rubber. Strategy here could ultimately determine the winner of this race. Davide, you're a 3-time winner around here in 1 week, I believe, back in 2012. How on earth do you make the tyres last around this racetrack? They degrade so quickly.
To be honest, the key to the race is having a good start so you can get your car into a good position. Then save the tires as much as you can and push just at the end.
Great strategy from Davide Valsecchi, as always.
As we're now moments away from the off, let's take a look at the grid order in which they'll start today's race. Robinson lines up on pole position, with Yuki Tsunoda alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Schumacher, Lundgaard, Callum-Ilott and Sato, Piquet, Schwartzman, Joe, Daniel Ticktum, Matsushita, Aitken, Louis Delatraz, and Alesi, Dragovic, Armstrong, Samaya and Sean Galeo, Markelot, Deruvala, Mazepin and Roy Nissany completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Pole position. Let's go for the win.
Just check the strategy here. Nothing between projected and personalized. 11 laps on the mediums, and then the last 21, I believe, on the hard compound tires. And that's pretty much the only strategy worth doing around Sakir. Just finishing up the formation lap and then forming up the grid. Dire qualifying for my teammate Nikita Mazepin, who, you know, I know that people aren't the biggest fan of Nikita Mazepin, myself included, but I can't feel like 21st. They've done him a little bit dirty.
Start sequence will begin as soon as the grid has formed. Be ready with the clutch.
So yeah, really this race, based on how my pace has been across the whole weekend, I stomped practice, I stomped qualifying. All I need to do is get a good start, stay ahead of Tsunoda and Schumacher, and if I can do that, it will be as simple as that. And lights go out eventually, and yeah, it was a pretty good start. I got away cleanly. You can see Tsunoda already falling away from me, and by the time I get to turn 1 in the braking zone, I'm already like 6/10 ahead of Tsunoda. He didn't even come close to me off the start. And yeah, this is my first lap in the race conditions with a full tank of fuel. Obviously the tanks of fuel not quite as full as you would get in a Formula 1 race, because the race is a little bit shorter. Although I believe the fuel burn in a Formula 2 car is slightly higher, because obviously they take slightly longer to get around the track, and the wheels are slightly larger. There are a few differences, but I think the fuel limit for a feature race in Formula 2 is 65 kilograms, but I'm not 100% sure about that figure. I could be wrong about that. So yeah, run down to turn 10, as I believe it is, and you see here there's a bit of yellow flags come out there, and I believe that is as Christian Lundgaard, who's had a bit of a moment there. So we'll take a quick look at what happened with him. You see he's racing with Guan Yu Zhou, who had a very good start, and he just goes out a bit wide and just drops it, and has to take evasive action and tries to rejoin the circuit, but no one's giving him any room whatsoever. So he goes off and then tries to rejoin, nearly hits Mazepin and Roy Nissany, and yeah, Christian Lundgaard just kind of all over the place rejoining the track there, a bit dangerous. But you know, he comes back on in 20 2nd, I believe it is. And yeah, going to be a very long race for him. Meanwhile, we're comfortably leading out in front. Already broken the DRS to Tsunoda within the first lap. So yeah, not much chance of us coming under pressure from him. And yeah, it's myself leading Tsunoda, then Ilott, Schumacher, and Ilott's teammate Guan Yu Zhou. 4 very capable drivers who are all part of their respective driver academies. Obviously Tsunoda part of the Red Bull Academy, Ilott and Schumacher both Ferrari Academy, and then Zhou is what would have been Renault Academy back in 2020. Obviously Alpine Academy in real life nowadays. End of lap 2, and yeah, I'm comfortably setting fastest laps. And apart from that, yeah, just not really much happening in this race. Building the gap to Tsunoda consistently. Lap 4, you can see I go a bit deep at turn 10 again, which I'm going to keep calling turn 10. I'm not sure if it is, but that's the number I'm going to go for. I go a bit deep and I check my tire wear because it feels like I'm already getting a little bit of tire wear action coming in, and yeah, really difficult to manage, especially when I know I've got to do 7 more laps on these tires and I'm burning like 6% with each lap. I mean, you do the maths, 11 laps, that's 66% tire wear. Not enough to get into puncture territory, but definitely very close. Definitely something that was a little bit sketchy for me at this point during the race, and something I was a little bit concerned I was going to have to manage towards the end of my 11-lap medium stint. But then I set the fastest lap anyway, so maybe I was just talking absolute rubbish. Lap 5, I set another fastest lap, and you see this is a repeating trend where I think my tires are going off. You see I still got the window up at the end of lap 5. And I'm just setting fastest laps despite the fact that the car just feels, it's really hard to drive, but it's not deterring me whatsoever. I'm still pushing really hard. I got a little bit concerned at one point about the fact that I might be burning too much fuel. Lap 10, obviously, here we go. It looks like I'm not going to get another fastest lap, and I get one. Lap 11, obviously my pit stop lap, and you'll see here I'm in the pits now. 62% on the front left tire. Definitely getting towards that point. I don't think I could have extended my stint for more than maybe 1 more lap or so, but yeah, fortunately we come into the pits, and F2, only 1 man for each tyre. They can't have the 3 or 4 people on each tyre that they have in F1, and so it was a 5.7 second pit stop, which is pretty standard for F2. And when we come out of the pits, we come out just behind Giuliano Alesi, who, yeah, doing pretty well considering where you'd expect Giuliano Alesi to be if you watched the F2 season. He was not particularly remarkable throughout the course of the F2 2020 season in real life. But yeah, up in 7th at the moment, and hopefully I can just clear him quickly. That's what I was hoping at this point. So I can maintain some of that momentum, keep pumping in fastest laps, keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully have a pretty good race. You know, the one thing I really don't want to do now is get held up massively by a car in front, maybe make contact with him. That would probably be awful. Has a little bit of a lock-up coming into that corner, but it's nothing too big a deal. He stays ahead for now. I'm going to get DRS out of turn 10, so all I really need to do is get a good exit from turn 10, and then I should be able to get past him to make my, hopefully, first racing overtake in my career, my driver career mode playthrough. No ERS, obviously no rich mix. The only tool that you've got for overtaking in F2 is the DRS, and so it's very much a test of how good you are at driving, how good you are at racing wheel to wheel with other drivers. But getting past Giuliano Alesi on his 12-lap-old medium compound tyres was not the most stressful job that I'm going to have all weekend, I imagine. Yeah, move on to lap 13 now, another fastest lap. Even though I'm on the hard compound tyres now, obviously there's a little bit less fuel in the back of the car, and so it enables me to set faster laps. Gap to Tsunoda at this point is already 20 seconds, and we're not even halfway through the race. At some point, Jeff's going to get sick of congratulating me on all these fastest laps. We move later to to lap 16, and Jahan Daruvula is the first retirement of the F2 2020 season. And yeah, we'll take a look what happened to him here. You see, he's just behind Artem Markelov at the moment, down in 19th. Not a great position for Jahan Daruvula. He had a pretty good F2 season in real life. But yeah, he just pulls over to one side, and then you see in any second now, puff of smoke comes out the back of his car. That's a classic engine failure right there. You'd think F2, they're all spec cars, they should have a bit better reliability, one would hope. But yeah, Jahan Daruvula, the first retirement in this race, and the first retirement of the 2020 F2 season. Meanwhile, I'm going pretty well. First sector wasn't brilliant on this lap, but you know, I think you can probably guess what's going to happen by the fact that I'm showing you the remainder of this lap. It was another fastest lap. I think I set about, you know, it was an average of like a fastest lap every 2 laps or so. I was just going quicker and quicker and quicker. You know, I was keeping an eye on my tyre temps, managing them a little bit, but honestly, like, keeping the tyre temps down was not a particularly stressful job for me throughout the entirety of this race. It was pretty easy to do. I had a pretty stress-free time in this race. I think to call this race action-packed would be probably one of the biggest fabrications that you could utter. Nothing really happened, at least not for me. You know, I think there was a few overtakes going on further afield. But yeah, I do set the fastest lap on lap 16, and then fast forward a little bit further through lap 17. I'm purpling, and then Guillaume Samaya suffers the same fate as Jahan Daruvula. We'll see exactly what happened. He's chasing down Marcus Armstrong for P16. Not a great position for Samaya, but one you might expect. Pulls over to the side, and then yeah, another puff of smoke coming out the back of his car, and just not the race that Samaya probably would have wanted, especially being in a position that wasn't last. You know, he didn't have a great season in real life. But yeah, another engine failure for him, unfortunately. Hopefully, despite the fact that he'll be starting 21st now in the sprint race, hopefully he'll be able to make up some positions. You know, I don't think that a DNF would be what he was wanting at this stage. Well, no driver does want a DNF, do they? But yeah, random faults, driver faults, they are on in this. I don't know if they happen to you in F2 or not. I imagine they probably do. But once we get to F1, we certainly will probably be seeing quite a few random faults. Keep setting fastest laps. You can see the crowd's absolutely loving it. You know, I was just having a good time. I was just feeling like I was getting more consistent throughout the course of this race. Every single time I pump in a fastest lap, I'm just thinking to myself, like, you know, I can go faster than that. There's a corner I can save a tenth or so at. 141.8, dipping into the 141s now on lap 24. And then fast forward to lap 26, I'm setting the fastest lap, and the guy that we were battling earlier, Giuliano Alesi, retires from the race. We'll see exactly what happened with him, but I imagine it's probably a similar story to what happened with Samaya and Daruvula, where yeah, he just pulls over to the side and his engine just gives out completely. Lots of engine failures in this race. I don't know who makes the spec engines. I don't know if it's Dallara as well. I know they make the chassis, but I'm not sure if it's the engines for Formula 2 as well. But they are just not coping with the heat of Bahrain at all, unfortunately. 3 retirements, not great. Lap 28 set another fastest lap. Crucial thing about this one, it was actually faster than the time that Yuki Tsunoda set for P2 in qualifying. So I'm lapping faster than anyone was qualifying at this point. It's a pretty good feeling. Come on to the final lap now, and yeah, set one more fastest lap around the last couple of corners, and yeah, it was a pretty straightforward race from start to finish. I just completely extended from Yuki Tsunoda. Wasn't anything I had to worry about all race, and at this point all I was hoping was just that the sprint race might be a little bit more fun, because this was a walk in the park.
You worked hard for that one. Congratulations.
You know, F2 drivers a little bit easier to race against, obviously. Nikita Mazepin getting driver of the day there. So it's nice that he didn't walk away from this weekend, or walk away from the feature completely empty-handed.
Tell me, Davide, what was the key to this success?
This race, this win, was about one thing and one thing only: consistency. Anyone can be quick for just one lap, but there's a difference between that and being quick every lap, over and over and over. If you can do that, if you can gain ground when your opponents make mistakes, but then not make mistakes on your own, you can just push and push.
And as they make their way down to the podium, there's no denying the strength of the high-tech GP team. It was an incredible performance today, and they fully deserve to stand on the top step.
So yeah, myself, Tsunoda and Schumacher, 3 F1 hopefuls. Obviously Schumacher's someone I'm going to be contending with as part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. I believe there's 6 Ferrari Driver Academy drivers on the grid this season, when you include myself.
Increases their championship lead. After this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. And so, driver of the day then, Davide Valsecchi, who do you think you'd go for?
Difficult call, but I take Nikita Mazepin. He was just special in the using of tires. He managed the tires to the end, and he was the quickest.
And here's how things are shaping up in the Teams Championship. High-Tech GP moved to the top of the table. After all this drama, you'd be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you there. Take care.
I thought Mazepin getting driver of the day for P16, a little bit of a cop-out if you ask me. If you're wondering how I'm on 31 points, because you get 2 for fastest lap in Formula 2 and 4 for qualifying on pole. Scoring system a little bit different to Formula 1. But we'll take a look at the highlights now. I think you probably understand where this is going. Not many highlights to speak of apart from that lap 12 battle with Giuliano Alesi, which was a lot of fun. And I can only hope that as the races go on circuits I'm a little bit less strong on, and obviously the sprint race I'll be starting in P8 because they reversed the top 8 finishers from the feature race for the sprint race. So I will have my work cut out trying to cut through the field to see if I can overtake the top 7 to get back into first, to get a clean sweep on the weekend. But yeah, nothing really doing off the start. You see here I come out just behind Giuliano Alesi. Yeah, the only highlight in this race really was me just chasing him down. But yeah, Nikita Mazepin getting driver of the day because 3 drivers had a DNF. Christian Lundgaard obviously went wide at turn 10 on lap 1. The only driver that Nikita Mazepin actually overtook in this race was Marcus Armstrong. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say that you have him as driver of the day when all he did was just finish ahead of 3 cars that retired and 1 who had a bit of an issue. You know, I mean, fair play to him for keeping the car on the road, I suppose, but you know, I think they could have probably named a better driver of the day than Mazepin. But yeah, just absolutely no highlights in this race whatsoever. It was a very big cop out. But hopefully the sprint race will be a little bit more interesting.
We've reversed the top 8 from yesterday's race to set the grid for the sprint race here today, and the drivers are almost ready on the grid down below. I'm not the only one sitting here today who's looking forward to today's race. My friend and ex-GP2 champion Davide Valsecchi next to me is already on the edge of his seat awaiting the start of the event. How's it going today?
Hello there, Alex. I'm great, thank you, and very excited to get started. I have a feeling we are in for a very special event today.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So yeah, it will be a 0 stop. You don't have to stop in a sprint race unless you feel like you have something to gain from it. Marino Sato is the driver starting on reverse grid pole because he finished 8th in the feature race. I believe he is a relative of former F1 driver turned IndyCar driver Takuma Sato, but I don't know exactly the relation between the two of them. But yeah, you know, 5 red lights. It's a bit of a quicker start this time than it was before. And it's just the absolute start of dreams. I just get away so well, and I get ahead of PK, Ilott, Schumacher, Tsunoda off the start, dive bomb Callum Ilott into turn 1. What a start. I make up 5 positions before turn 2, basically. I go wheel to wheel with Joe for a little bit as we go through turns 2 and 3. But at the end of it all, I make it up to P3 already by the first 3 corners. Pretty much the dream start that you'd want in a race like this. I just think, you know, I just got such an absolutely blinding start. And my starts on this game, they're not as good as they have been in previous years. Typically in previous games, my starts have always been quite good. If you watch my F1 Championship mode, I rarely ever put it on pole. But there were quite a lot of times that I would start sort of like P4. and I'd be leading by turn 1 because such is the nature of my ability to start in this game. I think using automatic gearing, which you can no doubt tell by the fact that I don't have suggested gear showing up, it probably helps me a little bit with my starts. But I think that's also what shoots me in the foot in F1, why I have such bad starts in the F1 races, is because it takes me such a long time to upshift. But you know, if I try and manually override it, I will just spin the car. Still got a lot to work on when it comes to my starts, but the start in this race was just fantastic for me, and you know, I hope that I can have a few more starts like that before the end of this F2 season. So anyway, yeah, we're in third. Race is being led by Marino Sato at the moment, and then we've got Robert Schwartzman, who's in P2. Obviously, I'm going to want to clear these guys sooner rather than later. Running in the dirty air, it's only going to get harder to overtake them the longer I spend behind them. And, you know, running behind Robert Schwartzman here, I do have a little bit of a look up the inside of him. You know, he's just ahead, and I think better of it. You know, I don't want to make contact with him. I don't want to be too aggressive. If you watched my F2 2020, sorry, my F1 2020 Championship mode playthrough, you'll know I developed quite a reputation through that playthrough for going for quite aggressive moves and losing my front wing. And yeah, in this game, I'm just determined to keep it clean, even if that means backing out of moves, even if that means being a little bit more cautious. You know, especially when you've already won the feature race and grabbed 31 points before you've even got the points handed out for the sprint. There's a good chance that even if I don't score points in this race at all, I'm still going to probably be leading the championship. But you know, you don't want to put that to the test. You want to score as many points as you can. You never know when you might suffer a mechanical failure, when you know you might get taken out by a rival driver. That's the one thing about F2, is that everyone's got something to prove. Obviously, Robert Schwartzman ahead of me is another Ferrari driver, Academy driver. As I said before, there's 6 of us on the grid. In myself, Schwartzman, Eilert, Schumacher, Armstrong, and Alesi, I believe, is the other one. And in F1, in 2020, there were probably 3 seats that I would say were controlled by Ferrari. Obviously, you've got the two main team seats of Leclerc and Vettel in 2020, and then also Antonio Giovinazzi's seat is a Ferrari seat. But you know, strong relationship between Haas as well, meaning that there is a lot to play for.
Sato has just set the lap of the race.
Sato sets the fastest lap of the race. Obviously, if I get ahead of Schwartzman and Sato, you'd think I would like to be setting my own. But yeah, the relationship between Haas and Ferrari, like I was saying, Haas are known for purchasing a lot of their parts from Ferrari, and so perhaps that could be an option in F1. I wasn't planning on going for that move on Schwartzman, but he just brakes a little bit earlier than I was anticipating, and I have to swerve to avoid rear-ending him. And in the end, it just means I kind of dive bomb up the inside of turn 4, squeeze him a little bit wide, and yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't get the replay for this particular move, which I would have liked to have done, but yeah, I lost it during the editing of the initial video. And so yeah, you'll have to wait until the end of the race to see the replay of that overtake, I am afraid. But now we're hunting down Marino Sato for P1 in this race. You know, his pace, with the greatest respect to Marino Sato, he's not the kind of driver you would really ever expect to be leading a race. In my opinion, he's been quite lucky in his previous years in Formula One, for the fact that not many people really seem to pay much attention to him as a driver, because obviously in 2019 you had drivers like Raghunathan. 2020 it was very much Guilherme Samaya that got the wooden spoon, and in 2021 it's looking like it's Alessio Deleda who is the driver in particular who might be picking up the wooden spoon. So Marino Sato always been a little bit quiet, but never been a particularly strong driver in my opinion, and with DRS we just absolutely breezed past him, taking off the fastest lap in the process. And yeah, now we're into the lead of the race, and all I can do is hope I don't lose it. Let's watch a replay of that overtake with the action shots. You see, I just go up his inside as we go through the pit straight, and as we get to the braking zone, I am just fully ahead of him, and yeah, nothing really doing there. And yeah, Just having a really good race again. My pace around Bahrain really strong compared to all the other drivers, but Bahrain's always been a bit of a specialist circuit for me. You know, in games, I'm sure you know if you play this game, you've always got those few circuits that you know you typically go well around. I'm sure you're familiar with someone who's quite a popular YouTuber in this game who says that Monaco is one of his strongest circuits. There's another popular YouTuber of this game who said that Canada was probably one of the strongest circuits for him in the game. And for me, Bahrain is definitely one of the circuits that I just know like the back of my hand. I've been driving it since F1 2010. And just been a massive fan of the circuit. Setting fastest lap after fastest lap, and then lap 7, we got the 7 words that everyone wants to hear. Dan Ticktum is out of the session. You love to see it. Dick Tantrum himself. Yeah, another puff of smoke out of the back of his car, and that's the 4th engine failure of this weekend. And yeah, just really weird reliability. Kind of like the first race of the 2020 season in real life. Obviously, it was in Austria due to the pandemic. But just so many engine-related retirements, really strange. Unfortunately, a bit of balance restored. 7 words nobody wants to hear. Jack Aitken is out of the session, and let's take a look what happened to him. He just pulls over to the side and just starts slowing down. Everyone's getting past him, including his teammate Guillaume Samaya, my teammate Nikita Mazepin, Christian Lundgaard, Marcus Armstrong. Yeah, he just pulls over and is never seen again. I don't know whether there was a puff of smoke out the back of his car or not, so it could be a gearbox-related failure instead of an engine failure. It would make a difference instead of having 5 engine failures in one weekend. At that point, you've got to start asking yourself what's going on with the engine manufacturer, because everyone uses the same engines. Why? At this point, I myself was getting a little bit worried. I was like, oh, well, maybe my engine's just going to conk out on lap 21 or something like that. So yeah, hopefully we'll hold on for the remainder of the Grand Prix. But we're just going quicker and quicker and quicker every single lap at the moment, setting a purple sector 2 on lap 8, pushing for more fastest laps. Fastest laps in Formula 2 are really important because they're all worth 2 points, and there's 2 of them up for grabs each weekend. Obviously you've got 2 races, so the maximum amount of points that you can walk away with, for those unfamiliar with the format, it's 4 for qualifying, 25 for the feature race win, 2 for fastest lap in the feature race, 15 for the sprint race win, and then 2 for fastest lap in the sprint race, which I believe works out to a total of 48 points per weekend, but it might not be perfect maths, I'm not sure. So at the moment, it's obviously me leading, Sato, Schwartzman, Zhou, and Eilert, and at this point I was looking at the deltas between the 4 cars behind me and wondering, was there a little bit of a train behind Sato? And the answer is yes. Yes, there was. He was holding up Schwartzman, Zhou, Eilert, and also Schumacher quite significantly at this point. Sato's pace, he's not quite as strong as the 3 Ferrari Academy drivers and the 1 Renault Academy driver, as you might expect. No Academy backing for Marino Sato, as far as I know. So yeah, it's probably only a matter of time, I imagine, before Schwartzman manages to find a way through him using the DRS. Lap 11, I set another fastest lap. It's pretty much a repeat of the feature race, really. I'm just setting lap after lap after lap faster. And then we take a look. Here's what happened on lap 12. Robert Schwartzman closes him down using the DRS and tries to go around the outside at turn 4, and he just about makes the move stick, stays on the track, and he does to Marino Sato what Max Verstappen could not in Bahrain in real life this year to Lewis Hamilton. Keeps the move clean, keeps it on the track, isn't demanded to give the position back, and Schwartzman up into P2 now, Marino Sato down onto the lowest step of the podium, but hopefully he can cling on for his own sake. I'm sure it'll be a big confidence booster. Lap 14, I have a bit of a moment. I kind of lose my focus. I think I'm looking over to see how long I've been recording for, and I just dip well, I say a wheel. I dip, I think 3 wheels into the gravel on the exit of turn 3. And I'm very lucky not to have a Nikita Mazepin-esque moment. But I keep my focus, and I'm setting fastest laps in lap 16 again, and again, my pace stronger than that of anyone in qualifying. Lap 17, I didn't catch this in the race, obviously, but when I looked at the delta and where everyone finished at the end of the race, I saw that Tsunoda finished way down the order, and this is why. He's chasing down his countryman Nobuharu Matsushita, and just drops the car all on his own. He's very lucky not to drive into the barriers when he's trying to correct the car, but in doing so, yeah, everyone from Delatraz all the way down to Markelov overtakes him, and Tsunoda ends up in P20, dropping the car all on his own. Maybe some dirty air was to play there, but not what he'd want, especially because he's chasing a super license, obviously, so he can get signed by AlphaTauri and maybe Red Bull one day. One of 2 drivers on the grid this year, I believe, who is with the Red Bull Academy, obviously, the other being Johan de Ruvala, who, having a pretty poor start to his championship. I think, again, they're doing his pace a little bit dirty compared to how good he was in the real F2 season, but, not everyone can do well every single weekend. And then we just keep setting fastest laps. Lap 19, it's another fastest lap. And that was pretty much the story of this race, I think the Tsunoda incident was pretty much the last major thing that happened during the race. Sato able to hold Guan Yu Zhou behind him for the duration of the race. I set my final fastest lap on lap 22, very nearly into the 140s actually. Even stronger pace this weekend it feels like compared to the feature race, but that makes sense because the tyre life is a little bit less worn and the fuel is a bit lower. Checkered flag, and it's another comfortable victory for me to make it 2 for 2.
Absolutely awesome. Just amazing. Well done.
Yerme Samaya getting driver of the day. That'd be very nice for him after his retirement in the first race. I believe he finished P12, so actually a very good recovery for him.
What a superb victory.
And for myself, it was quite straightforward.
What set them apart from the competition here?
Well, I'm not sure what we just saw, but one thing's for sure. Today's winner has certainly showed they have no fear battling it out on the track. And who can blame them? I don't think I've ever seen someone through the competition so quickly. Today's race was a sight to behold, and judging from the crowd's reaction, it went down well with the fans as well.
Got to agree with Davide again. 7 overtakes in just over 3 laps.
Celebrations, and how well deserved is this one? What a fantastic victory for High Tech GP.
And yeah, it's myself, Schwartzman, and Sato on the podium. Obviously, Schwartzman was having a very good season in real life, and it looks like he's going to have this in the game as well. And we'll see where he finishes in the championship. Maybe he could be a shout.
It's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Robinson increases their championship lead. And now, Davide Valsecchi, let me ask you, who is your driver of the day?
Difficult call, but I say Guilherme Samaya. He was committed the entire race, and it's paid off with the result.
And now a look at the team standings. High Tech GP moved to the top of the table. That's the end of today's race. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a great race and sets us up nicely for the next installment in a few weeks' time. Take care. From Davide and I, it's goodbye.
As long as I'm ahead of him, I don't mind. But Nikita Mazepin, fair play to him this weekend, I think. Started 21st. Obviously, his qualifying was very poor. But makes his way to 11th by the end of the sprint race. Obviously outside the points. But maybe it's a sign of things to come for him. Who knows? And here we go for the sprint race highlights, which it was a bit more action-packed this time. A bit more than 1 overtake made. We're seeing my lightning start again. And you see just on the inside, or on the outside I should say there, it was Ilott, PK, Schumacher, Tsunoda, dive bomb Guan Yu Zhou, and just absolutely nothing doing for any of those drivers compared to me. I was going to say I was barely even breaking a sweat, but the day I recorded this it was a very, very hot day, so that's very far from the truth actually. But in terms of nerves, in terms of fear, I was not even worried. I knew I could take these drivers. Like I said, my confidence around Bahrain very high after lots of years worth of experience. This is the well, let's see. I played F1 2010, 14, and then I've played every game since 18. So I suppose this is the 6th time now that I've driven Bahrain in an F1 video game. So I know my way around this circuit pretty well at this point, and pretty happy with how I drove here in F2. Obviously, I imagine first race of the season in F1, if I make it there, is going to be a much different story because I'm sure I won't be driving a car that can contend for a win or probably even points. Such is the nature of F1 access. I'll be contending with this man in front of me right now, who I'm coming to overtake, and you can hopefully see how I pull off the overtake here. Robert Schwartzman, Callum Eilert, Mick Schumacher will probably be my biggest competition for the seats. I doubt we'll all make it. Obviously, F1 is it's a very competitive sport to get into. Not all of us will be getting our super licenses. Here we go. You can see there's nothing looking like I'm going to go for this move, and then he just wasn't ready for it. Schwartzman just was not ready for me to pull off that move at all. To use a Martin Brundleism, I caught him napping a little bit there, I guess is how I would describe that move. And let's see whether they show my move on Marino Sato or not. I could definitely make a case for why they might not. But I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll get quite a lot of interest coming into this video, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.